Welcome back to the HOOA podcast, number 27. Haven't done this in a while, but I thought to bring back superstar Gladiator Landon back because one, he
Sir,
has a bomb full of energy. He's like a tactical nuke. He has an array of topics that I haven't met before, and all the people I've spoken since last we talked. And this is like we're talking almost like a half decade. So without further ado,
hmm
Landon, welcome back.
great to be on. And the first thing I want to say is I got something I was theorizing last night. I'm going to pop off right away with something I was
Let's go.
theorizing last night.
Okay.
Tell me what you think. I think that one of the most sought after traits that a woman searches in a man is charisma. And this
Yeah.
is my thought on charisma. I think charisma is boiled down to this. Charisma is the way of doing something like of not caring about anything while being fully intentional. I think that the most charismatic guys they seem to have this
Yeah.
just super chill vibe, just go with the flow. But the things that they do are so, like every movement's so intentional. Every action they take is super intentional while also seeming effortless and like they're just flowing.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a
What do you
good
think of
point
that?
actually. First off, people should read this book by Olivia Fox Cabane. It's called The Charisma Myth. It's for
Mm-hmm.
incels, true self, fake selves, and introverted guys that think that charisma is a myth. So actually, you could learn a couple things, and you could Google search like a
Right.
clip note on YouTube. That there's this graph actually that it's a combination between coolness, aka like how calm you are, and competence. And it
Mm-hmm.
sketches basically the thing you basically sketch, Landon, is that they, for
Okay.
example, let's say take James Bond. He's quite competent as a killer, and he keeps his cool at the same time. Very charismatic guy. Take George Clooney.
Mm-hmm.
He has the A-list superstar. He's very social because of all the people he met. He's competent because I think he's an Academy Award nominee. And there's maybe one tenant that I'm forgetting that completes the full package of charisma. And in that sense, for example, if you're a complete noob, when I was like 5 years ago, if you'd found me, my charisma was lower because my competence in speaking, even my voice gotten lower because of all the smoking and drinking. So that's trained
Mm-hmm.
everything. Um, and from a cultural point of view, if you take a 60-year-old grandpa from the Adriatic and specifically Italy, they have sfeggiatura. I always butcher this word. It's called Sprezzettura. It's
Mm-hmm.
these kind of style that is the devil may care, or a very carefree attitude that they have, and they challenge specifically in the way they dress. Just Google search like how Italians dress. For example, they have
Mm-hmm.
a full three-piece suit. However, they put the tie on purpose skewed, or the pocket square is wrong and stuff like that. And that is that
Mm-hmm.
intentful intention is that they know how to play the game. And then the final part,
Mm-hmm.
when you know how to play the game, you butcher the rules just to show who's boss and basically who's the tyrant here. Yeah.
Right. And you speak on competence, and I
Yeah.
feel like that's another trait that most men almost need. It's almost a necessity, especially if you want to be successful in life. So how do you think a young man, what do you think is the best way to increase someone's competence?
Yeah. When you go about your day, what I do, you have health, wealth, relationships, and passions and hobbies could be categorized in one domain. Everybody has these little cool, quirky little definitions. Mike
Right.
Medici in the self-improvement guru e-celeb space of Twitter has the PISA, physical, intelligence, social, and arts. It's the same if you just jumble it up. And in these tenets, you can get your competences. Health, you can be jacked as like Landon, or I'm really good at long distance running or muscle ups.
Mm-hmm.
Wealth, you got these really wealthy guys. And relationships, some guys are really social, have a lot of social circles. Last one, if you're really good at music or painting or drawing or writing or something like that, and you really
Mm-hmm.
become something special, like insanely elite, 0.01% I'm talking about, when you got all four in spades. And I think people like me, Landon, and Mike Medici also mentioned Lobo, aspire to stuff like that. And how do I say this? Your competencies start to bleed out in different stuff. Let me put it like this. The other day I was in a calisthenic park, and you have these
Mm-hmm.
pull-ups bars, and I was just getting back into it again. Actually, I'm not that huge because all my friends are like physical coaches and trainers, and it humbles you, especially I'm getting older and older. So but there were these two guys, and they saw me actually do the muscle up, and I started hearing them whisper. I was like, They're probably saying something. And then there's this young guy. He was so like he has a certain naivete, like a very youthfulness about his face. But he asked me like, "Hey, how do you do that?" I was like, "Okay." I explained it to him, and then I was like, "Wait a minute, what the hell? This guy's super young." I said, "How old are you actually?" And this guy was 15. It's like, okay,
Okay.
now
Super young.
now I understand where it's come from. And I said, "Yo, bro, you're coaching him, blah blah. How old are you?" And the other dude was 19. I was like, "Okay, guys, I get it now. Where you're like a little bit uncertain, but I said just keep doing whatever
Mhm.
you're doing for a freaking decade, and then it doesn't really matter anymore. If you're doing pull-ups, like
Mhm.
it's late at night and you're doing pull-ups right now, just keep doing it for 10 years. You'll be way jacked and then way smarter, whatever." But I could see
Right.
this comparison, this contrast. So this is like an anecdote, not to toot my horn or virtue signal or anything like that, but it's more like I could see, whoa, damn, these guys could not look me straight in the eye. They probably took the vaccine. We had lockdowns. It was like, whoa, what the hell? How was I when I was 15? How the hell was I when I was 19? They couldn't even like,
Mhm.
like a little bit mumbling, like, and yeah, as a man, you have to grow, it doesn't just come with age, it comes with maturation, it comes with expertise and experience specifically. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that again, that's where, yeah, as a young man, it's a hard world, and I don't want to be one of those guys that's like a doomer or like pessimistic, but yeah, I think that the world will only get harder from here, and maybe there will be there's like peaks and valleys, but I think currently
Yeah.
we're going into a hard session, and as a man, if you're not, I tweeted about this a few weeks ago about if you're not thriving, you're kind of dying. And
Yeah.
so you got to find some way as a man to become more valuable. And even in that, like as a man, we talk about high value man, high value man, high value man. What does that really mean?
Yeah.
For me, I think a lot of it, at least the way that I take it, is mainly to do with, again, your status and what you do for work.
Yeah.
And I think that as a young man, again, it's hard. That's something that's hard to traverse, because a lot of people tell you, oh, you want to be high status, you want to be in a good position, pick a college,
Yeah.
learn something smart,
Okay.
and stay
Yeah.
at college. Then you go to college and you realize, okay, everyone around me is doing drugs and drinking alcohol and getting drunk. Maybe college isn't the best spot
Yeah.
that's conducive for success. So what else can I do? And that's where I think that things like, again, Andrew Tate's War Room. I know there's a lot of other random communities that pop up,
Mhm.
and sometimes I'll talk shit on them, but I think that there's some genuine value in them if they're high quality and if there's something you can really, really learn and take.
Yeah, like since we're talking about the war room, people always thought I was in the war room because I actually knew a lot of those guys. They all started following me,
Yeah.
and I just started conversing with them. And it's through osmosis, peer pressure, peer pressure in a healthy way. That guy's
Mm-hmm.
doing that, so I have to do this. And one of the war room, I think he's still the war room member, or he just works with those people, like with Dylan Madden, with the cousin of
Oh yeah,
the
Dylan Madden's another guy that he recently blew up. I
yeah,
followed him and then he followed me, and I hopped in his inbox and I talked to
yeah,
him a little bit.
yeah,
Great guy. But I found him on YouTube Shorts just randomly.
yeah.
I was scrolling through YouTube Shorts and I found him, banger of a video, and I had to reach out to him and be like, bro, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because that was absolutely fucking sick. And you're gonna blow up. And then obviously he's gaining more and more traction, doing better for
Yeah,
himself, and it's
yeah.
just great to see.
That guy, if people notice, there's in the improvement space this man called Victor Pride. Dylan Madden
Mhm.
goes all the way back to the first guru called Victor Pride. He used to intern for that guy, and this was pre
Okay.
Ajax, pre Ed Lattimore. So I would
Oh, this
say,
way back.
yeah. So I'd say Dylan Madden's earning his stripes after maybe 7 years, going into a decade. So whatever's coming towards
Mm-hmm.
him, he poured his life, like his work
He
into
goes
that.
hard.
Yeah. So if people
Okay.
want to, take a case study from that, and
And
it's
then
that. Go on.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
go. Yeah.
I was just gonna say real quick. It's also like you watch this snowball effect, and I watched it from him. He slowly starts to get more successful.
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to see him train more and get his diet a little bit better. And I
Yeah.
saw a video of him hitting a heavy bag. So he's you get that ball rolling, and that momentum carries like a motherfucker.
Yeah, and I think he hit the right signpost or the right milestones, probably, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I have to give respect from him. I think it was him who saw my account in 3 5 years ago as well. He said, "Here, you're gonna be big." I don't call myself big at all because it depends. Everybody has different goals. For example,
Yeah.
what is it? One of my best friends that I've known a half decade. He got married. I was in Portugal for that wedding. Some people saw that.
Oh yeah.
It's not that I want a monogamous relationship as a goal, but I have different goals in life. But coming back, see what we're even doing, like this symbol, this emblem. Dylan matter, you're Dylan, you're an emblem now. But all these in your social circle, you know. If I ask you, Landon, who's in your phone right now, it should either the answer should be either nobody, completely nobody, or maybe 3 to 5 other guys that are basically Landon 2.0, 3.0, or maybe somebody a little bit older, or somebody that you just met at the gym or at Whole Foods, or something like that,
Mhm.
and that's like the advice also, like to have, I always say this, have a mentor who's a little bit older than you, a couple guys in the trenches, those are your peers, also your mentor, like they maybe get better girls or make more money than you, and then a couple younger guys. And coming back, like the specific younger guy, you mentioned this aphorism, what you said, that it's only going to get worse. So I said this exact same thing to a friend of mine. He was like, you're furious. So, for example, he's really good with squash, bench. He's handsome as hell. He has a chiseled face. But he has a couple like tenets that we need to work on. But he was like, Fury,
Mhm.
do you think it's gonna get better? I said, no, no, motherfucker, it's gonna get worse. I don't know why you're complaining. I complain in my head, and maybe you see me a little bit grumpy or something. But I'm not moping. All my friends, they think it's probably like they're not gonna hear me audibly complain. I'm just like, stop doing that. Don't be a baby, because it's only gonna get
Mhm.
worse. How are you gonna act in like when you're, when you're broke or everybody left you? It's lame.
Yeah, and it's like you talk about that brings up a good point where my dad used to tell me when I was younger, when I would throw a fit, I would just lay on the ground and I would just lay there all spread out and I
Yeah.
wouldn't talk, I wouldn't say anything, I would just mope. And that was a really bad habit that I've carried a little bit with me because sometimes you can find yourself sulking and almost enjoying your own misery.
Yeah.
And that's another compound effect, right? You start to enjoy your misery, you start to make things almost worse for yourself, whether it's intentional or almost like subconscious,
Yeah.
and you start to revel more in that misery. And as a man, no woman, like no one's gonna like you, no person's gonna like you if you're just sitting in your own shit and doing nothing and being lazy.
Yeah, I think two things about that. Like I'm a quite I have big logic components in me. I've come to the conclusion I'm not a rational person at all. The things I've done in my life were quite emotional actually, but I have an
Right.
engineering background, so there's some kind of pragmatism, like this framework in my mind. So what you just sketched. So I have a trajectory. If I keep blowing myself into the ground, like keep doing that, I know within 2 days, a week, month, stuff like that, the second order
Mm-hmm.
effects, the secondary indirect ripple effects are one profound and beyond me and quite incalculable. I don't know what's going to happen in a negative fashion, aka I'm going to lose more and more and more. So if I lose one day, it's fine, just mope in the corner or something like that, it's fine. But I
Mm-hmm.
know the consequences down the line, and this comes a little bit with experience, I think, because I know my darker moments, and I know from a societal and relationship point of view what that entails. It could either be, I don't know, like dating, or your friends around you or something like that. I know it's how it's going to look like, and
Right.
pragmatism, like this very logical part of my brain starts to activate like that, then things maybe I need to do a little reset or recalibrate, just think a little bit clearly. And also I do a lot of compartmentalizing. For example, I track if I've lifted. Sometimes when my mood is off, I check in my journal, because that's a system or habit that I put in place. I just leave through a couple days, and if there are blanks, like, wait a minute, how did I not do
Wrong.
this overhead press for a full week? How is that possible? How did I let that happen? And then if you then do that,
Mm-hmm.
then the next day is significantly better in terms of your mental headspace. It's almost like you reached a new stratosphere, and from there you journal
Right.
again. Okay, try to do an overhead press again, maybe in the next couple 3 4 days, and then your headspace slightly better. Then from that level you can make new decisions. They're the same decisions, like maybe dating new girls, hotter girls, blah blah, or more money, but it's always the same thought processes, but from
Right.
the point of origin, the emotional point of origin that you're doing it is slightly different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when we talk about how you want to be intentional with the things that you do. And I think that's one way of combating falling into a lazy cycle or sulking in your own misery and things of that such. I listened to a guy you probably know, Alex Hormozy, big on selling and
legend.
right. And there's one thing that I was watching one of his videos and I found this just so interesting. He has a very, very specific way of, like, a lot of times you'll see him in a wife beater and a flannel, and he's so intentional that he talks about his flannel, and again he'll wear his flannel fully if it's cold out,
Yeah.
but if he wants to take it off, get a little bit less heat, then he'll roll it up. If he wants even less heat, then again he takes it off and he wears his just his wife beater. And I thought it's so funny, this guy who's worth so much money, who could buy whatever clothes he wants, like he still focuses so much intentionally on, okay, it's about efficiency. Okay, if I want to be colder or hotter, this is what I'm gonna wear, and this is how I'm gonna adjust if I need to. And it's just so funny that he does it to that detail.
That's really interesting. In my acquaintances circles, there's one man, I think he's like a dentist or something. He's quite wealthy. He's very well off. He had supercars and stuff like that, you know. But
Right.
when he comes back from a vacation, he just goes to his stove. He just boils a pot of water and he makes one of those instant ramen, you know, like those instant ramen noodles. And my mom always
Right.
comments, look at this guy. You know, he made it so far and this and that, but he stayed true to how it was, because that's the fastest thing that's in his cabinet, right? He comes home, he thinks, I need 500 calories, you know. He doesn't give a shit. And it brings me back actually to this interesting thing that I noticed from the James Bond novels, is that all the authors go into lengths how somebody as prolific as James Bond tries to control his routine. That he always likes to have his breakfast to the tea, like in a very specific manner, very autistic, very controlling. And Hunter S. Thompson was the same in real life, that he had these insane stories, but he said he was only capable of doing that because he had a 2 hour, 3 hour breakfast, like 3 orange juices, like this and that, and maybe a couple lines of cocaine, knowing Hunter S. Thompson. But it's about that ritual, that prep work, that legwork that you're doing before you have this runway into what's maybe your main meat of the day, is maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours of deep work. And I bet like people like Elon Musk and Hormozy, Jobs was like that as well, Steve Jobs as well. These almost control freaks with certain stuff. My friends like their steaks in very weird ways, or their salmon in only one way. I do it as well. If you sit with me on the table, they'll be like, "Why are you doing that?" And like, sometimes only when they make a comment about it after, I will like, "Oh yeah, that's why I did
And you
that."
realize,
Yeah, you know.
right.
So I do these weird shit as well. Yeah.
And again, I feel like it sucks because, like, for me, I like having a variety and being able to do what I want, but then I also find it that being autistically intentional with my daily habits, it just makes I feel like it makes me much more successful. Again, you look at guys like bodybuilders. A bodybuilder wants to be great.
Yeah.
They almost have to suffer with the same schedule for a long time period, where it's eating the same things, going to the gym at the same times, having the same habits and schedule, and that's what leads to success. And you look at business guys, it's almost like the same thing. You look at like Warren Buffett. One of his main rituals was, if he did good in the stock, he'd go to McDonald's, get a certain thing. If he did bad in the stock, he'd go to McDonald's, buy a different thing. Like, it's just these rituals. And it's weird that these really successful guys like Warren Buffett, you could be going to Peter Luger and getting some fancy steak wherever you want.
Yeah.
But instead, like, you have the very same ritual that you started out with, and you're going to stay with it because, again, that's what led to your success. So I guess stick to it.
Yeah, I think
it's just interesting.
It's very interesting actually, because this restaurant owner, and he owns a couple other stuff. One of my first bosses that I work with in our hometown, he goes to the same swimming pool / sauna where I go to as well, and he always goes back to that. He's been doing that for a decade or something. His swimming technique is sublime, but he's not an athlete, he's not professional, but he's just been doing that thing maybe not even 1 decade, but decades before I entered that swimming pool or something. And that same ethic that he has, for example, I know his wife as well. She was my first boss, basically. She has been in like basically a brick and mortar, just a restaurant kind of style restaurant, old school business for more than 40 years. And if people know her like in the city, how successful she is, it's only because you haven't seen her lose in the first 10 years. So she went bankrupt so many, like if somebody says how successful it is, like, yeah, she's just been doing the right stuff for 50 years. She's unstoppable. And all these like
Mhm.
winners, if you talk to them, they just had one thing, or like one thing. For example, this woman, she doesn't have like she doesn't know about crypto, like like day trading. She doesn't know anything about that stuff. Email
NFTs.
marketing. Yeah. And she doesn't know what that is. She just knows she had one business. She was selling these sandwiches, did great in our town. Still to this day, people
Mhm.
buy that stuff. She's just a queen at that, like a king at that. Then you know.
Yeah. So what habits have you put in your schedule intentionally that you stick to consistently? Like I know that lifting, eating
Yeah.
right, maybe reading books.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm so paranoid that every day I'm losing out on efficiency. And maybe that's a bad way to look at it, but like I mean, it's my life, right? It's like Alex Mosey talks about how, work-life balance. He doesn't really care about a work-life balance because he loves working it. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like it's the same for me that like I love doing what I do and I love growing as a person and feeling like I'm actually making a better me for the future. And so what habits, what things have you found that work best for you?
I noticed, by the way, quick reminder, I sent you a message that the thing is going to cut off. I'll send you a new link.
Okay,
But
no worries.
I've noticed that if I'm in conversing with somebody, the Vitruvian man style, that I went to a classics school. I really laughed at my classics teacher. I thought it was something stupid. But as I got older, I was talking with you about it before the recording, how versatile you are
Right.
in your interest, in your personality, and it goes deeper and deeper. Actually, like it goes beyond that. It becomes your personality. That when
Mm-hmm.
I sit at the table with somebody, I can smell when they're boring. And I think one of my main tenets is that I have massive hedonistic adaptation. I get bored within 5 seconds, so that lends
Yep.
towards being not boring. So 1 second I'll be having this convo with you. I just read some Nietzsche from a book, and I split that into quotes, put that on Twitter. I have a Twitter profile. I wrote 500 pages. I ran this morning or yesterday, did some lifting. And I think it's about this movement, this wheel. I have a lot of thoughts about it. I haven't really written it down, but I think that is the main thing. So if it's too boring, let's say I'll be lifting for 3 hours. I've never done that. Maybe 2 hours length, like, but then I was slacking off actually. But if I lift for 3 hours, I actually feel something is wrong. If I do something for too long and it's not, I don't know, I feel that something is wrong in my being, in my soul or something. And I try to
Mm-hmm.
mitigate that by, like keeping my appetite wet with all these human curiosity aspects, all these wonders and awe. Basically, like training my awe and my curiosity, actually. Let me write
Right.
it down for myself. That's a good one.
And that's a great point too, is training the curiosity. I think that a lot of people think like, sure, are we all predisposed to certain things genetically and environmentally? Sure. But you can train certain things. And I think curiosity is something that most people should train
Yeah.
because why would you want to live in a world where you're not curious about whatever is going on? I personally can't be that. Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah. So you're saying you can be that person, Landon.
Right. Yeah. What was I talking about? I don't even
Yeah.
know.
No, you asked me like, what is the main thing that I
Oh,
do, and it was like training curiosity and awe. And you were saying like you go about your day and you can't fathom that you just can't be this person that sticks to one parameter. Maybe like I'm putting words in your mouth
right,
there.
right.
Yeah.
That was it. So the 9 to 5, it's like I don't have any problem with the 9 to 5, and I think there's great 9 to 5s that you can work, and maybe I'll end up working a 9 to 5 for a little bit. Like it could be what it be. But for me, I I lose my attention span so quick. Again, I'm kind of hedonistic, and I like to be doing fun things. Why would I want to be sitting typing some work log up or doing this or doing that when I could enjoy myself and have fun? And the other thing is, it's like I so much enjoy writing, helping people out, and getting people back into better shape. Like that, those are just huge passions of mine. And even that,
Uh-huh.
like I love those, but I'm so ADHD and I'm so like I like bouncing new things
Yeah.
that I like doing other things though. Maybe one week I'll be super enthralled with snowboarding, and then the next week I might be interested in dirt biking. Like
Yeah.
I hop to new things so much, and I get flack for this because
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you actually feel the same way. I
Yeah.
get flack because even though I'm not working,
Yeah.
people think that I'm like not busy. But it's
Yeah.
like even when I'm not working, I'm working my hardest. Like I like to put things into other things that I enjoy so much, like writing. It's like people may think writing's a waste, or oh, you don't need to write. Like come out tonight, let's hang out. But it's like no. Like I really enjoy this. This is something I'm
Yeah.
super passionate about, and I never see it as a waste.
To come back to a lot of things that you said. I'll tackle the 9 to 5 aspect. I have a couple
Mm,
examples, including myself. But to tackle that last part where they say you're not working, well, you're living. Like, that's what I always say. That the human being, if you're follow the Judo Christianity, if you're made in the
mm,
image of God, then a human can almost not be compartmentalized. You cannot be boxed in, you cannot be labeled. And if you believe in the infinitude of something like a soul or a spirit, it means that the things that you touch or channel are ineffable. It's boundless. It's almost magical. And what that means is that if you are a drone, if you're stuck to one thing aside from putting bread on the table, and paying your gas and your rent and stuff like that, aside from that, what you then become is not a human being. And that's the soulless aspect of postmodernism. And when you see people when their eyes are glazed over, they had 0 drinks in them, but their eyes are glazed over. They haven't even taken the vaccine. That aside, when you just look in their eyes and you see they're dead, you just look at them and it's as if you're in a Walking Dead episode. And this is
oh
not
yeah.
to corroborate my own propaganda or my own that you have to not do 9 to 5 or something. It's just people get their spirit beaten the shit out of them, and if you make eye contact with them, then they're dead. And then it goes further, and sometimes it's doesn't have to be. Sometimes it's their spouse, their girlfriend, it's their workout regime is non-existent, or the wage that they're making is barely enough. They've never taken risks in their life, or they have certain regrets that they haven't chased before they did this. And
Mm,
there's so many things that you do not know what's in the full register, this treasury of a human being that is incomplete. And to come back to, like, it's also a matter of framing. You were saying like your HDD all over the place.
mm,
My friend that I was talking about earlier, he has that as well, but it's more, I like to call it divergent style thinking. That one day he just showed me a sketchbook what he was drawing. I said, bro, I didn't know you had a drawing talent. Why didn't you do something with that for the last COVID lockdown 3 years? You could have been really good at it by now. I was like, I can't do that. Well, when I was a kid, I used to draw, that aside. But
mm,
what I'm saying is that they're coming back to also this question that you asked me. We can go into like, are men supposed to be angry? But I mentioned something like a warrior gene, something genetically or something epigenetically, is that
mm,
people who we call autists today, there's this whole theory, this hypothesis about that the autists of today were actually just the sentinels. They were not meant to be social. You just, bro, okay, you don't have to talk. This is your wage or your cut, or you get this wife or this and that. Just go stand there, hold this freaking spear. Don't talk to anybody. Just stand and watch. It's only because society hasn't have the proper caste system or proper hierarchy, and people are not
mm,
placed in the right boxes and are not aligned with their proper full archetypal nature, a king, a warrior, a poet. They don't know what the fuck they are. They're just taken and stripped into one mold, a drone. That's maybe 80% of the human population, even 90. Just go do this.
mm,
And it's the cause of like people like Henry Ford did a good thing, but it's all the way back to those feudal systems. They were basically serving the lords, and you have to understand that only the elite, 0.001%, are these feudal lords these days, and you're just being a
mm.
slave, And final part
Yeah.
about the 9 to 5, last one, is that
Mm,
I have when people ask me about 9 to 5, I have a friend who's a very successful lawyer, top of the top, and he showed me receipts where he worked, and he showed me the receipts, and it's because of two things. It's in his family, so he has a certain pride that he had to go down that line. So if
mhm.
it's in his family, I'm talking like male competition spirit, that he had to be a lawyer as well. I've seen it a lot with doctors, surgeons, and stuff like that. And
Oh
then
yeah.
other than that, I feel that's a short trajectory for him, because I feel maybe he comes from already like old money or a wealthy family, that he's running this insane masculine viral energy into maybe a trajectory of maybe 5 years, 10 years, and then he's going to retire. I know him. And then he's like, yeah, it's just shallow to work. But he did it. And then he has the receipts, and it's a proper job title. He's smart, and but this is a guy, if you ask him, yo, dude, give me a full essay on Nietzsche, give me a full essay on Rene Girard or Guénon or Evola, he knows everything, because he knows his 9 to 5 is not his life. I'll end it with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know how it is where you live, but
Yeah.
in America, it's just it's so like you gotta work, grind. You just end up feeling like a cog in the machine, and you know you wonder why. Like it's really no wonder why these people have no curiosity anymore. They don't have
Yeah.
time for it. I remember when I was working in one of you know a shittier jobs that I had obtained. We were understaffed almost always. I was always going in for extra days just because you know I needed more money, so I might as well. So I was working upwards of 45, 50 hours a week. Not that that's a lot. I mean, like a guy, if you're passionate about something, you could work 60, 70, 80 hours. But I get that. But this is something I wasn't passionate at all. I was actually anti-passionate about it. And
Mm.
I couldn't do anything
Anti-passion.
other than like I literally was working so much that I just felt like I was again a cog in the machine. Come home, eat, work out, go to sleep, then you know work, and then the same thing. It felt like I was living in the Truman Show, just the same shit. I don't know if that's the Truman Show, but the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
Nah, yeah, we have that a little bit here as well. But I think I was reading one of these niche esoteric Telegram channels. I think it's one of those guys who escaped from America and is now I don't know, he probably lives in LATAM or something. He's promoting
Yeah.
people to go somewhere else. I wanted to ask you that
Mm-hmm.
question actually, like maybe it's too personal, but where's your trajectory in 5 or 10 years?
Oh
But
fuck, man. I'll
yeah,
tell you. I'll tell you. Dude, I pray every day
yeah,
I wake up, boom, bang, pow. I'm hoping to Thailand. I want to go to
yeah,
Thailand so bad. I just want my 3, 6 months, man. Just
yeah,
let me train Muay Thai. Just let me
yeah,
enjoy. Let me drink coconuts. Let me stay on the beach, man. You know,
yeah,
I just want to have some fun.
yeah,
That's my main thing. Either in Mexico or there.
yeah.
I just want like a break. It's almost like not that I'm going there permanently, but I just want a break where I feel like I can think for myself and kind of figure out, you know, what do I want in my life? Where do I want to go?
Yeah,
Where do I want to end up? That
yeah.
thing.
I think it was you, me, and Bodhi, people like that were planning to meet in Thailand and stuff like that. Yeah.
I'm still down. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, but it's
What do you
because
think though? Where you're living, do you see any problems and do you want to go anywhere else?
yeah, definitely. I have friends and family. It's because of them that you want to stay close to them. But my
Right.
friend, he was just asking me now, like my hometown where we both were, the crime rose has gotten darker. It's not that it's Gotham City, you know. I'm not sketching a new script for a new Batman movie that we need a vigilante,
Right.
but he said, Fury, had you noticed the difference? I said, yeah, but I'm just one man. I can't control a whole city. I'm not that powerful or something. And the only
Mhm.
thing I can do, that's my specialty, is not run away, but leave. That is actually my specialty. That, you know, people always say I'm like a vagabond or Ronin archetype. Yeah, it's just because I don't like certain stuff and then you have to leave, you know? Like if you're in a shitty relationship or a job, you just leave. I'm really good at that because it's more, it's everything else below peace of mind. Peace of mind is almost number one, you know. It's
Mhm.
in, it could be a nice relationship or blah blah or a nice comfy salary, but if it doesn't give you a certain satiation, certain quality of life, a certain satisfaction, I'm gonna have to cut that loose. Maybe it's the weird kind of like Zen Buddhist shit, like Miyamoto Musashi 10 rules, you know. Don't have preferences in anything, don't have any ties. It's just less hassle, to be honest. And that's why I always call my circle quite nicely, because even in my closest friends group, as we age, it's always like, hey, my girlfriend, hey, my wife. And it's like, bro, just what is this? We've talked about this 5 years ago, you know. And I'm the
Mhm.
same, but however, like I said, I keep those things to myself. You wouldn't hear that from me. It's more like, yo, we need to make more money, or shall we go somewhere? Maybe it's intuitive what I'm feeling or going through, but it's my scripts are quite tight, you know. Like, yeah,
Yeah. One of my really close friends, me and him almost talk like multiple times a week,
yeah,
almost daily,
yeah,
about like, you know where do we got to go? What do we got to do? Something's got to change. You know, like
yeah.
it's almost like that Bukowski quote of something along the lines of, you know, when you break up with a girl and she's your ex, she'll run your ass over, kick you into the curb, and just spit on you.
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah,
that's what I want
yeah,
to do with America. Honestly, I feel ran over. I feel spit on. I feel kicked to the curb. Like I just want to leave. I want
yeah,
almost like a new start, and
yeah.
I don't feel like they're saving the Western world. You
No,
know, people use that quote, but it just, dude, it really doesn't feel like things are going in the right trajectory.
to save would take it. That will be an undertaking. You would have maybe, like, you know how they say the Delta or the, you know, elite special forces can take over a poor country with just a 5-man
Yeah.
squad or 10-man squad, you need about 5 to 10 killers who have
Yeah.
these huge acres of land, are competent in all the tenets that we've talked about, that they can create nuclear families, that they then are influential in their small local communities, and from there they can make a revolt or rebellion or something like that. Then you're gonna sway.
Mhm.
I don't know how the republic system of America works, but then slowly, if you have control from the bottoms up, then you can do something, you know. And here in the,
Yeah,
you can't do anything. You can't do anything.
you're actually one of the reasons that started, me wanting to start a revolution, because I remember you had Twittered me. We were talking in DMs, and you said, oh, like maybe I'll come to America sometime. You guys still have that vaccine travel ban or whatever? I go, no, dude, of course not. Like we got rid of that a long time ago. And you go, are you sure? I'm pretty sure it's still there. And I
No.
start looking it up, and I realize it's still there. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, what is going on?
Yeah, and then the reason why I asked you was because one, I get a lot of people who want me there. Just this new guy, he was smoking cigars. He had a new podcast. He's friends with Cold Email Wizard. He said, "Fury, just come to Tampa." I said, "Yeah, sure, bro. Once they let loose that weird vaccine stuff,
I
And
can't believe it,
and
bro.
even Canada, and the reason why I find it sus was Canada had let loose of the non-vaccine restrictions for non-Canada citizens. So it's like, okay, usually Canada and US are close in politics, how we are here
Oh yeah,
in
yeah,
Europe, but it was weird to see.
yeah, yeah.
And
It just doesn't make.
it just doesn't make sense. And it's nice that I'm influencing, one by one, like node by node, but it's more like, how does this make sense? I always say
Mhm,
that, like, how would this make sense? And
mhm.
if it leads to somebody else like you thinking, it means in your circle you get people thinking as well. So that's why I was laughing. That's the power of being a rebel. One guy's like,
Oh yeah.
hey, this doesn't add up.
And it's like the guys on Twitter that they find their freedom. You almost don't. It's like you have a limiting belief. You don't realize what is possible.
Yeah.
And then you see these guys that they leave America or they leave Europe or the
Yeah.
UK, and they figure out that like it's way better living somewhere like Mexico or Thailand or another place where you realize like you have a lot more freedoms and just a lot more enjoyment.
I I met one guy last year. He's living in Thailand now. I don't know how many girlfriends he has, but he does well for himself. Famous Lawrence King. He just put out a tweet again what he
Oh
does.
yeah,
He has an LLC in Wyoming. He put on in a tweet everything. It's Googleable.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Good way of evading tax. Yeah, it was fantastic.
And he says it's all legal, and he's from the UK, and he
Oh yeah,
did it
yeah,
with a proper reason. He and his dad were fed up, and he legit wanted to. It was a pain that burned him in his soul, you know.
mhm,
And I think it's a little bit what you said, tying back. For those who don't know, me and Landon are big Bukowski fans, but it is like that. If you're not feeling that you're mistreated, that there's a
mhm.
maladapted synergy going on between you and your home country, then of course you're not going to want to leave. Coming back to that lawyer friend, he's from a different country in Europe. He has a strong, almost racial tight-knit tie to his home country. He's never going to leave. He's set. And that aligns perfectly with his 9 to 5 mindset. Everything is fine. If
Yeah,
I just ask him, bro, you want, he's like, no, you're freaking crazy. He has a nice car, nice girlfriend. Everything is nice. And then I said, this is cool. This is good to hear. I'm not a doomsayer that is all bullshit. I'm just saying, if somebody is not that well off in his trajectory of life, I always give this like as an example. This guy has his own issues, don't get me wrong, but on this specific trajectory, I'll be like, yo, if it's this cool, of course you're not gonna want to leave your hometown, your home country. You can work, you come home to a nice girlfriend who's making like nice summer raps for you. Like, why would you want to change that life then? Everything is good. And I
right.
think it comes from that. And I think that's part of, a little bit before we recorded, you asked me this big question: is every man angry? I think it has to do with that, because as soon as you are satiated, as soon as you're done, then you're not angry anymore. It's that
Mhm.
juxtaposition of peace versus war. And as long there's not the finality, the final piece, maybe you and I, or the person listening, as a man, you only get as 1 second on your deathbed. Maybe that's the feeling that you're looking for, is only when you die, right before the, like, 1 second of peace, but that is then what you're looking for. But it's only possible because of all the warfaring, all the warmongering, all this hate, all this fury, all this anger that has to be let loose on something, anything, and everything.
Hmm. Yeah, and with Lawrence, again,
Yeah,
you look at what happened to him. He's got a beautiful wife. She's
yeah,
now pregnant. I'm
yeah,
sure he's living a great life, and he just feels so much more freedom.
yeah,
He's not in UK or wherever he was, where it's all rainy all the time and
yeah,
it's terrible, it's miserable. It's in the US, we have a very similar thing where, like, do I think the US can be great? Absolutely. Has it been great in the past? Absolutely. But is it on a downward trend, in my opinion? Yes. Now, again, it comes back to that limiting belief where, as the guy in the US, you think it's just your duty to take shit from a bunch of people and to work some shitty nine to
yeah.
five and to wife up some big hog and to get divorced and lose all your money. Like, that's just, of course you do that. That's the usual.
And since we're bringing up Lawrence King, that people know of him that he's from the UK. I think it was last summer, if I recall correctly. He even went back. So if somebody calls Cope that no, he's just escaping the UK, he's foregoing his heritage or something. You don't have to forego your heritage. Maybe he had to meet maybe a lost uncle or something. Who knows what kind of private business he had to do? But he just comes in, spends it on nice hotels, and doesn't go to those shit places anymore that he used to come from. He has now made it quite well in the marketeer space. He just jettisons in, and he goes to those places in and out. He needs to do some stuff in the UK, goes a couple Euro places, and then he dips again. And then to create a
Mm-hmm.
parallel, maybe Landon will maybe have a nice grandma like a Mima, says, Landon, come back. And then Landon thinks, okay, then you don't have to. Well, some people actually do. They get rid of their US passport, but you can always come back if you just keep a door open and stuff like that. If you have it
Yeah.
well together in the other spot that you're in now, you make sure you have proper cash flow, you set up something when it's going well, then you just come back. And if it's not going well, then you don't come back, to be honest.
Right.
Why
Right.
would you come back to a ship that's burning or like a burning house? You just, no, you abandon ship. It's,
Get
yeah,
a new
you just,
ship. Yeah.
yeah. And
And
there's no shame in that, to be honest, because we all adhere to Darwinism. Just talk to anybody. We're all egocentric people. Like
oh
when
yeah.
a ship is burning, you just leave it. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, like, looking up the studies, like, I'm a real statistic based guy.
Yeah.
A lot of people call me analytical, like I've been called that, and I didn't really think about that. Again, analytical, autistic, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
like, I'm
Yeah.
just a real stats fanatic.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
And look up the stats on girls in the U.S.
Yeah.
I think the average height is, what do you think it is in the U.S.? The
Average
girl's
what?
age, I think it's 25. The average height of a girl,
Yeah.
age 25 to, I think it's 30 or 40. What do you think?
Um, height is it 5'8" or
Yes,
something? 5'8" maybe.
5'4".
Damn. Oh,
Okay, so keep that in mind. 5'4".
Okay. Okay.
Now, what do you think the average weight is? Again, the average weight
The average weight. I don't know, man.
for those.
This is bad. This is gonna be bad. You just give it to me. Give it
Okay,
to me. What is statistic?
168, roughly
Whoa.
168.
That. Let me. How much is
That's
it?
more than, dude. I have to bulk up to that. 168 pounds. So I don't know what that is.
You have to
For
bulk
like
up.
8 kg, whatever.
Did you
Like,
say you have to bulk up? Yeah. Holy shit.
oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I
Like,
just saw that.
and after I see that statistic, there's nothing that made me want to flee America more than seeing that. That's brutal.
Yeah.
And
To
that's
be
just for
honest.
women.
Yeah. No, but it's bad. Yeah, that's bad. That's bad.
Yeah, and you wonder why there's so many people are unhappy in America. And then, like, I watch these videos of people in Thailand. Everyone looks so happy. Everyone looks so joyful. Like, it's like, oh, I want to go there. That's fantastic. The fuck?
To be honest,
Get me out of here.
it's also like a certain societal philosophy.
Mhm.
Colloquially, Thailand is called the land of the smiles. After I went there I wasn't even there that long, not even a full month. But after I came back, I said, now I know why it's called the land of the smiles. And it wasn't about the prostitution, lady boys, or the hedonism. What I'm talking about is that even the person who presses the button on an elevator, they had a certain energy, a certain smile about them. I was like, oh, maybe I should treat these people better. Or I remember one of the first meals that I had was not in a popular district, a little bit close to my hostel on the outside. I was waiting for my friend to come meet me or something. I was like, whoa, this is really cool because I was so free. And it reminds me my old romantic notions about the US, that it's vastly continental. It has like a cowboy effect almost, you know, like a cowboy can do anything in a town. It was like that for me
Mhm.
in Thailand, that I felt a certain freedom. I was just went up and down the street or something, and the people were super friendly.
Yeah.
I had it in Denmark as well. I saw a cleaning lady who was actually happier and more smiling more than me. I was like, it's definitely something that is a certain philosophy. So in Denmark, it's called hygge. It's their Danish philosophy,
Mhm.
and each country has these little things. And well, it could be N is one, you know, maybe the people that you meet, but definitely what you mentioned about Thailand, that's the thing. There's a reason why people go there, you know.
Right.
Yeah, and
And
yeah,
I don't want to be that guy that's just gonna shit on the US and act like sure, am I romanticizing Thailand? Like I haven't even been there. And I'm sure there's its downfalls. Because I
yeah,
know one girl
yeah,
who lived in Canada during the whole COVID mess. She just was like, I don't want to even
yeah,
deal with this. So she ended up going to Mexico.
sure.
And we had talked a little bit about the downsides of her going to Mexico. It's still a third world country. There's certain things you have to deal with that you wouldn't maybe necessarily deal with in America or in
Uh-huh.
Canada or whatever. But still, like I feel like the benefits outweigh the negatives. There just seems to be people just are happier with less over in those countries, and it just seems better.
Yeah, for me, by the way, it's also a little bit genetic for me, to be honest. My family has some roots in South America. Most people don't know that actually. I don't know what they think about me, but so it also depends a little bit. We're not gonna lie
Mm-hmm.
that we all need sun, to be honest. But I have, for example, a Russian friend. He's quite cozy when it's dark, to be honest, because well, his
Yeah,
bloodline comes from Russia and stuff like that. He
used to the
doesn't care.
harsh Russian winters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're used to it from a genetical point of view. Same with the Danish friend that I was talking about. When it's dark, like him and the Russian friend were in this competition. Like, I'm not having. You're having it cold. Aren't you cold? Like here, take my sweat. It's
mm-hmm.
it's in their nature, but it depends a little bit. This is a little bit what I like to call like a lifestyle design. For example, when you're a little bit older, Landon, then I can ask you, yo, you're gonna settle there and create a family in Thailand. For example, I'm talking like 5 years down the road. And by then you would have a slightly different, analytical perception because you're in a new rendering of the simulation. You move to a new spot, then you have a new vantage point you can see again, and I think to everybody that you have to, because if we're going to take it from the scientific method, you have to create new hypotheses, but new hypotheses feedback loops, you need new data, and sometimes I feel, myself included, we're a little bit stuck in those old loops a little bit, and we need more information sometimes, novel information or old information but in a new fashion.
Yeah, and that's where the mind really comes in handy. And it's like I was talking to my friend about moving, and he thought it was crazy.
Yeah.
And he thought, oh, the U.S. is great. Of course, we're gonna be fine. Like, in my opinion, listen, just because something's possible doesn't mean it's probable. In my eyes, the probabilities of things going, more and more downhill, they seem to be likely. And again, I don't want to be that doomer guy,
Yeah.
but it also comes back to focusing on yourself. You can only control your own thing. I think that's the worst thing about the human experience, in my opinion. I hate to the highest degree how much the whim of luck you are. Right? You could just be
Yeah.
walking on the street. Random things can happen. You don't have a lot of control. And that, as a man, maybe it's the same for women, but as a man, you want to feel that control. You want to feel like everything is in your control and you have everything dialed.
Yeah, it brings us back actually. I wrote that down like pre-recording, that you were saying that these things that you address your anger towards, like these spears or arrows of anger towards these objects of your fixation as these obstacles. It's about controlling them. You want to rein them in, you want to wrangle them like horses. Brings you back to like
Mm-hmm.
JBP, that he always talks about that you have a dangerous man, but a dangerous man needs to have that thing under control. He needs to have himself under control, and from there you can expand your reach and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson's another one. Like
Yeah.
that guy he's gotten a lot more scrutiny, and I guess that comes with the bigger
Yeah.
you get, the more you're gonna have your critics.
Yeah.
Um, but I just don't know why. I feel like some of the manosphere, the guys on Twitter, have kind of turned against him. When I know that he said some things again, like the anonymity thing, like, oh, you shouldn't be able to be
Oh
online
yeah,
and be
there was
anonymous.
a couple
I
weeks or
disagree with
something.
that
Yeah, a couple
completely.
weeks ago. Yeah.
Right, but like his overall message, it's the same thing with like Tate. I think that people take Tate and they take his exaggerations and the way he gains popularity. Like
Yeah.
he's a provocative guy. That's part of his style. He exaggerates for purpose. It gains clicks, so it works. But if you look at what they're really after, I think that Jordan Peterson has a really good heart. And I think he means really, really well. Same for Andrew Tate. I think they both mean really, really well. But some people just take what they say and certain takes they have, and they just write them off entirely.
Yeah, I remember I was on a plane and I bought finally 12 books of, 12 Rules of Life by Peterson. I sent it
Yep,
to
yep.
you, to Landon, because you inspired me to actually like not listen to, by then, the anti-narrative towards Peterson. I was like, what is this about?
Right.
I remember how do you call it? Hyperlinguistic JBP used to be in his old lectures. He's so
Mm-hmm.
verbose, so knowledgeable. He can create this very sublime tapestry of the Western canon. He loves his Adam and Eve and the old biblical King James Genesis, and from there he spins out these yarns into different topics. It's fascinating. Like
Mm-hmm.
in the old days, we had Terence McKenna, who was always also prolific about that. And from that, that's how I just see it. For example, in 12 Rules of Life, you come to the understanding that's not his biggest work. He has also the map of meaning for people unannoyed, unindicted to that. That I just, I wanted to ask you, because I know, like in the past, like 2-3 years ago, you liked him. I want to ask, do you still like him? Because there's
Oh
this
yeah.
aphorism. What is it? Message versus messenger, right? Are you gonna stop listening to the message because of the messenger, or is it a balance, or?
Right. And that's why I feel like a lot of people fall. One of the biggest things I preach on Twitter is always be careful of your biases and the fallacies that you fall into. I think it's called genetic fallacy. And that's
Yeah,
essentially like what you said is that because you don't like the source of the information, that therefore that information is wrong. Which
yeah.
again, you look at a place like CNN. Do I not like CNN as a media source? Yes. But of course, just because I don't like them doesn't mean everything they spew out is terrible and a lie.
Yeah,
And it's the same thing with Jordan Peterson. I think that we pedestalize these guys that are at the top. We think that everything they say has to be right, or they should be crucified. And I don't think that's right. I'm sure there's a lot of takes that I'm gonna have or you're gonna have,
yeah.
where we kind of try and push the boundaries. We try and use kind of those in-depth thought to push the boundaries. And maybe it's not gonna be a good thought. Maybe it's gonna be a bad take, and that
Yeah,
happens. And I don't think he's scrutinized for that.
yeah, I think definitely. But it depends, like, where is free speech going, because I made a kind of like tongue-in-cheek or off-the-cuff jokes about vaccines and stuff like that. I never go into those kinds of stuff because it's almost like a losing game. Only play the games that you can win. And it's tiptoeing those lines these days, because
Yeah.
it's a brave new world, that when you're with your family or something and they ask you certain topics, you almost feel something coming. And it's not to say that you don't have to play a Machiavellian game, but you definitely need to not to say things 100% how you see it, actually. you know and I know some people that had, like, about the vaccine. One guy, it was almost as if he was ostracized from his family or something, because of his vaccine, philosophies, and they were just mad at him forever or something like that. And it's pretty not
Mm-hmm.
cool to hear that you're gonna get kicked out like an outcast, like a pariah, like goodbye. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, you just got to be careful. And but
Yeah.
that's ideal for those rogues or renegades, like people like you and me, that you just want to
Mm-hmm.
make it a little bit for yourself, and then slowly maybe you can drip feed people into your life who won't have it well. Because
Mm-hmm.
if we are talking about somebody like Dylan Madden earlier and Lawrence King, it's only because they have had some form of success that they can now drip feed into their social media marketing, that you can see, oh, wait,
Mm-hmm.
this is a different option. This is a different option. Let's say there's also a bias, since we're talking about fallacies. This is the survivorship bias. We see the survivor bias of them. We don't see the loser bias of people. They're maybe like at the same time as Dylan Madden, let's say Dylan number two. Maybe he did the exact same thing. Maybe that guy he didn't make it. But it's
Yeah.
nice to hear a couple different stories, and then people can cherry pick what they want from their life.
Oh yeah. And I consider you to be a good writer, and there's other people on Twitter that just have really, really excellent writing. And the people that I see that are some of the best writers, usually they push the envelope. They say things that obviously haven't been said, right? Like you try and think yourself to good writing, and the more you write and you put in, the more you're gonna have bad takes, right? Of course, like probability wise, you're gonna have bad takes, you're gonna have good takes, and the more you write, there's gonna be a shitload of bad takes, there's gonna be a shitload of good takes. It's just a matter of quantity. And so every great writer is gonna say something that you probably don't like. Like I know people, some people, Arthur Schopenhauer, another one, people find him to be super hateful.
Misogynist. They
You
call him
know?
misogynist these days. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where, again, like the more that we get in the future, I really hope we don't set the precedent that it's okay to stop people's speech, because soon enough it's going to be not okay to say that men are men and women are women, and there's only two genders. We're getting into a really gray area now, and it's like you smile, because again, like we know how sticky of a situation it can be.
It's weird. So I was watching that soccer/football world championship, and the elite superstar Mbappe of the French team. I could not believe it. This ultra giga chad who's worth hundreds of figures is dating
a man.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, wow, dude. And it's not per se from a societal and what kind of mainstream media that we're living in that it's condoned or that we're not ostracizing him, but it's more so that he chose that as somebody. Let's say he's a peer of Ronaldo or Messi or something like that. It's like, that's interesting that usually when you become the top dog, you'll choose like a King David for maybe like multiple hot I don't know, like Rosie Huntington, I don't know, like those cool top. That's something I would do. I'd be like a superstar football player. You can date lots of people, but definitely a different style of thinking that I could not. I was like, whoa, it's so it runs deep. Then if that's like an elite super, it runs deep.
It almost seems like something happens when you get to a certain level of fame or elite. It's like Bill Gates. Like Bill Gates, he's like whatever. He used to be technology, software based. Now he's all vaccines and buying up land and doing weird. Like I just don't get what happens that changes them. It seems like they're on a path, but then once that fame hit kicks in, they do some wacky shit.
Yeah, our old friend Bodhi used to say that. It's in Ride the Tiger of Evola that you can see that in Rome. At the end of their trajectory, they always descend into atrocious atrocities, like weird shit, like sleeping with animals and like killing animals, gladiator fights, pedophilia, weird stuff, and something weird happens with the human psyche. So by the way, this is the last part. Maybe you have some final notes, maybe some synthesizing. No, the time marker again. So
got you. Okay, got you.
So final notes, Landon, then we'll wrap it up.
No, we can wrap it up. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I don't want to go. I'll feel like I'm going on a tangent and then
Yeah, it's very volatile. I feel it because it's something very kinetic, by the way, that when it's actually fascinating for people who want to become more of a conversationalist. They should try to take notes how you and I go about it, that from these well springs of topics, there's, as long as it's alive and bubbling, you can go down a new stream. Actually, it's fascinating that, like I said, it was really nice to have this again. And for the audience, do like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, and keep spreading the word of HOOA. And thanks again, Landon, for being on the show, man. Thanks again.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure.
Till next time.